day of health and strength, a day in which to know you more and to love you more. Thank you to give us this time tonight, once again, to think about how we can help engage our children, the children of our church, in worship. We ask you to bless this time to us, and may you receive the glory. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. And tonight I gave you two handouts. One was a two-sided one that pretty much recaps what we did last week. We'll look at that in just a minute. And the other was a single-sided one about what we're going to talk about tonight. So there's two handouts for tonight. Just reminding you, why are we talking about this in URCNA 101? Because children in worship is becoming an extinct creature. Children are being taken out of worship in many evangelical churches. But we have a strong belief in the covenant. God is a God for us and our children. Therefore, children belong in the worship service with their parents, worshiping our God. We talked last time about Psalm 46, verse 10. It's kind of a key verse for this class. Be still and know that I am God. Too often we tell our kids in church just the first half of that. Be still! Be still! But the second half is more important. That they can know who God is. So that's kind of our theme for these two nights, last time and this time. Yes, be still, but that they might know that I am God. This course is supposed to be very practical, how to give some very practical suggestions for how to be engaged with our children during the 60-minute worship service. And we talked last time a little bit about the difference between going to church or going to worship. We're taking our children to church, that they just survive 60 minutes of quiet, or to worship, that they be engaged in the worship of our God. Just a reminder of all the disclaimers I talked about. Not all these things will work with every child. Again, tonight I'm going to give a lot of suggestions for what to do in the worship service. Not everything will work with every child. Every child is different. Various ages, various maturities are different. So this is simply to try to encourage you, to give you some things that might work. And remember that as parents, we set the expectations for what our children will do in worship. And I encourage you last time, expect more from them, not less from them. They will try to meet up to your expectations. If you expect more, they will do their best to provide more. Last time we talked about preparing for worship. And tonight we're going to talk about the worship service itself and then some follow-through after that. And also we said that throughout this thing, we're talking about how to help our kids understand that Sunday is a special day. Sunday is the Lord's Day. It's not like every other day. So throughout this, I'll bring a couple more things tonight about helping our children understand Sunday is a special day. We talked last time about preparing for worship. That's I think it's the back. Oh, that's on the front side of your sheet. Be on time. Use the restroom ahead of time. They will not go during church. They're not allowed to go during church. However, if there's an emergency, I said that the father should take them, not a sibling. And then had a couple questions about that. Obviously, with little girls, their mother should be taking them. But I would suggest, by the time our daughters are 6, 7, yeah, dads, you can go out with them. Absolutely. You go out with your daughter, you wait there outside, she knows you're waiting for her, things will go a whole lot faster. No more 15-minute bathroom trips, okay? So dad, give mom a break. Take your daughters out when they are able to do that. Sit together. We sit together and have our family up here. Remember, the youngest one goes between mom and dad, and the next oldest next to dad, the next oldest next to mom. Now, Mary and I talked about this last time. What about when dad is a minister or just not there? You can still be creative. You have to find a way to still have the youngest one next to mom. Now the oldest one is going to get bumped out, so the two youngest are next to mom. You're always going to keep your youngest ones closest to you. And yes, it does work if you are a single parent for whatever reason. That your husband's not in the picture, that your husband's off preaching on the pulpit, whatever it might be. It still works if you're a single parent. And the other thing we talked about was, we never discussed how we were going to sit. We sat the same way every single Sunday. There was never a question, what order do we go in? Can I sit next to this one today? No. The same way every single time. It's one less argument you have to have when you walk into church. We sit as a family, which is the same way every single time. And when this one says, let's go back to the original arrangement. Let's see, youngest one in the middle, father, over here. They all have a turn sitting next to mom and dad. This one says, how come I never get to sit between you? When you were the baby, you did. You were right here. This one says, how come I can't sit on that side of dad? Well, when you're the next oldest, you'll get to sit on that side of dad. So they all do get a turn with mom and dad, by themselves, whatever, but sit the same way every single time. Sit in front, so they can see what's going on. That's a process. Work them up slowly, a row at a time. Use the pre-service time to get ready. Find the song numbers, find the Bible passage. At home, get up on time. I have on the sheet here is hurry up, your Sunday morning call to worship. Okay, that is not original with me. That comes from Parenting in the Pew by Robbie Castleman. Is hurry up, your Sunday morning call to worship. Give your kids the time to get ready to go. Develop a Sunday morning routine. Sunday is not Saturday one day later. It's a different day. It's a different type of day. We have different food on that day. We listen to a different CD or DVD or whatever on that day. But develop a Sunday morning routine different from a Saturday morning routine. Make sure they have what they need for church. Bible, notebook, church bag. We're going to talk about those things tonight. And then again, at home, use the restroom. Tell them they will not go in church. Now, they've gone at home, they've gone at church, there's nothing left for them to go. So there's no reason at all for them to go out. And we talked about Saturday. Saturday is a day of preparation. A good Sunday morning worship service begins on Saturday. Get their work done. Make sure their homework is done. Make sure their catechism is done. Ask them at lunchtime on Saturday, not Saturday night. If it's not done by lunchtime, they've got all Saturday afternoon to get finished. Have their clothes laid out. Somebody mentioned this last time too, which I'd forgotten. When we were growing up, we didn't lay out clothes. We had Sunday clothes. That was it. These were your Sunday clothes. These were the ones you wore on Sunday. So I guess I'm a product of my culture saying they've got lots to choose from now, so they can pick which ones they want. But again, they pick that out on Saturday afternoon. They can spend 2 hours if they want, but what they pick on Saturday, they will wear on Sunday. They have chosen it. They took all the time in the world to choose it. They don't change their mind Sunday morning. What you picked on Saturday, you wear on Sunday. Next Sunday, something else, that's fine. But you wear it today. That's all there is to it. Kids, or parents, you get to win. Your kids don't get to win. They wear what you want. Have the church stuff in the proper place and be to bed on time, using the bulletin, the text from the bulletin for your nighttime devotions. All right, that's all preparation. Now we're going to go on to actually during the worship service. And that's the second one that I gave to you. During the service. First of all, they need to have their church stuff. They need to have their church stuff. What is their church stuff? Well, they should all have a Bible. I would say certainly by the time your kids are 5, maybe even 4, they should be bringing their Bible to church. And there's some creative ways of doing that. And I have visual aids again tonight. Here is a really nice Bible cover that is homemade, was made by my wife. And I'm sure she'd be willing to share the pattern. But it's really nice because it's fairly simple. It's got a handle on it so you can carry it nicely. It's got a couple bookmarks that are built in to this thing. On the inside, there's a little place for your pen and probably some Kleenexes or something like that. So this is really nice. They can bring their Bible to church. That's part of their church stuff. Bring their Bible. And this has a nice little pocket in it for their church notebook. Their church notebook is what they are going to use to take notes in church. We'll talk about what those notes look like in just a minute. But their church notebook is for them to take notes in church. And I would suggest that the church notebook be something fairly brightly colored. This is exciting. We're going to church. This is a good thing. Now, I have in here the worst example possible of a church notebook, black. Okay, this is not exciting. This is not a good idea. Here's your notebook, kid. Black. Or black and white, we're going to jail, okay? So something bright, something colorful, something that'll fit inside, and they take their church notebook to church so they can take notes. This notebook, if it was brightly colored, this notebook is only for church. It's not for during the week. It's not for at school. This is the church notebook. Again, how do we teach kids that Sunday is different? This is one way. You only use this notebook on Sunday. Now, is it sinful to use other days? No, of course not. But we teach them something distinctive about Sunday. This is my church notebook, and it goes in my Bible. So that's where I'm going to use my church notebook. And this always goes a particular place in the house, whether it's on the back porch, whether it's in their room, in their cupboard, on a shelf, but this always goes someplace so they know exactly where it is. When they go to church, they get it, they take it to church, they come home, it goes exactly back where it came from. Not close to where it came from, it goes exactly back where it came from. That way, on Saturday, I said, make sure the church stuff is ready. They just have to look. Oh, yep, there it is. Church stuff is ready to go. Rather than, oh, I gotta find it. Now, if they do have to find it, they have Saturday to do it. But it should come and go from the same spot every single time it is picked up and put down. All right, so Bible, notebook, and church bag. And I have brought for you, again, show and tell, I have brought some real live church bags. These are not imitations. These are real live church bags. Here is a church bag. Once again, made by my wife. Okay? So it's not expensive. It's not expensive. I think it's just 2 pieces of cloth sewn together, and it's got a little handle on top. Now this is, again, brightly colored because we're going to church, and that's exciting. We got little kitty cat here. That's probably a tiger. We got a giraffe. We got an elephant. We got palm trees. It's a California church bag. Okay, so we got a nice church bag. This is Rebecca's, actually. This is Rebecca's church bag. She stopped using it, a week or 2 ago. So no more for the church bag. So that's Becky's church bag. And then we also have my son Josh's church bag. Wow. This one's a little more well-worn. Josh is maybe more, I don't know, he's more something. But this has got little trucks, little hammer, little wrench, because his dad is so, mechanically minded. Not at all. My family's laughing at that. Okay, but this is Josh's. Again, it's bright, it's colored, it's exciting. So it's something for him, and a nice little handle. So your kids walk out the door, they've got it all. They got it all right here. In fact, probably if they've got it all right here. So very simple, very easy. Now what goes inside the church bag? Well, here's where I'm going to get myself into, trouble, but that's just what happens. Kids have a hard time, many kids have a hard time sitting still and not doing something with their hands. Our son Josh, even today, he has a hard time sitting still. When he was in high school, he always carried a lighter with him. Not because he smoked, because he would open it and close it, and open it and close it, and open it and close it, and open it and close it. Again, and again. Then later he got a knife. Open it, close it, open it. There was a gun. No, it wasn't a gun. But Josh is always doing something with his hands. So you can call them toys, or if you don't like using the word toys, they're manipulables. They're manipulables. Now, if you're going to take a manipulable for your child, and again, this is probably ages, 1 to 3, they should be 2 things: silent and soft. They should be silent, nothing with a bell in it, nothing with a horn on it, nothing that makes any sound whatsoever. Silent and soft. Now, this would be a good manipulator right here, because you can kind of pet him. He's nice, he's small. He's small enough to fit inside the church bag. He'll go in there, no problem. And now imagine that he's not soft. Imagine he's a Tonka truck. And this boy reaches over to his sister and whacks her with his truck. And that's going to be a bad thing. But if he's soft, she still won't like it, but it's soft. She won't get her. So I think kids need a little help I know people disagree with me, but to think that they're going to be there completely without anything to touch, to hold on to manipulate, their hands need something to do. So give them something silent, give them something soft, and again, this is only for church. This is not, go pick your favorite toy out of the toy box and bring it this morning. This is only for church. It is a church toy. We teach them the concept Sunday is different. Because on Sunday, I get to play with this guy. I get to play with this guy. I've been looking forward all week to playing with this guy. I've been looking forward all week to Sunday, the best day of the week. We teach them Sunday is different. This is a Sunday church toy. So he goes inside the bag, and then also, I think it's good if the kids have a snack of some kind. Again, this keeps their hands busy. If they're eating, their hands are staying occupied, and they're not grabbing their sister, and they're not waving behind them, they're very occupied. The snack must be silent. Silent. No wrappers. No wrappers. The snack must be silent, and I think the best snack possible is Cheerios. Cheerios is a great snack because Cheerios are all the same. They all look the same. The child won't be distracted, being distracted by the food. We want him to be listening to the sermon, but he won't be distracted. If you give them Lucky Charms, forget. I got a heart, I got a star, I got a moon, I got a clover. They're all over the map. Okay, don't give them Lucky Charms. Give them Cheerios. If you want to make it special for Sunday, Honey Nut Cheerios. I love Honey Nut Cheerios. Okay, and please, do not expect two children to share the same snack. Don't expect them to share. That is a recipe for disaster. You give them each a little container with Cheerios inside, one for each of them. Nobody has to share with anybody else. They all have their own. And one more thing, make sure these containers are all exactly the same. Same size, same color, same lid. Otherwise, why does he always get the red one? I want the red one. He always has the red. No, everybody gets the red one. Exactly the same size, color, snack, everything. It avoids arguments, and it is a manipulable that does keep their hands busy, but it's hopefully not distracting. Hopefully not distracting to them. So the church bag. Church bag has their church stuff, Bible and notebook, church bag with a manipulable, and not something huge. It's got to fit what's inside the bag, okay? Don't come with the big stuffed bear who's going to take half a pew. Take something little, something they can touch, and then a little snack for them as well. That's their church stuff. Okay, they walk into church, and we get started. First thing we're going to do when we get into church is we're going to sing. Singing. We talked about this a little bit before, some of these things, and that is that if they have not found the number before church, if you're running late today and you don't have time to find the number before church, have them find the number. Right away, they are being engaged. And even if they have found the number before church and they put their bookmark in there, have them do it again. Let them take the book out, and they can look at all their bookmarks, and they find, this is the one. This is the one we're at right now. So they know what song it is. They have themselves found it. We're trying to engage them in worship. If I take the book out of the rack, I find the number, and I go, sing that. She's not engaged at the beginning. She's not engaged at all. But if I give her the book and say, find the bookmark. Find the bookmark, you get it earlier. And she pulls it out of the rack, and she finds the bookmark. Suddenly she's engaged right away. So have them find the number. If the congregation stands, they stand. If the congregation sits, they sit. I told you last time about kind of the genesis of this whole thing was a family we sat behind many, many years ago in a completely different church. We were visitors. And during singing, there was a stand-up song, and the congregation was standing, and these two little boys were just facing each other, kind of bikesing a little bit, sitting down, not at all engaged. Even if your child can't sing, when the congregation stands up, they stand up. When the congregation sits down, they sit down. That gets them engaged. Now, there's a bit of discussion again. Should they stand on the bench? Should they stand on the bench? I'm not going to be dogmatic on this one, but I will say that you have a little more control if they're on the bench. You stand, back a little bit. They're right next to you. You have your arm around them. You have the book here. You've got them quite under control. If they're on the floor, it works. You might get a little bit of backache, but that's okay. So that one, some people say, no, they should never stand on the bench. I don't know. But when the congregation stands, they stand. When the congregation sits, they sit. When the song is to be sung, you follow along with your finger. Come thou fount of every blessing, to my heart to sing thy grace. You follow, or better yet, you take their finger and follow along. Now, some kids don't like that. Like I said, not everything works with everybody. That'll freak them out, and don't do that. But follow along with the finger. By the way, this teaches them how to read a psalter or a hymnal. I had someone come to my first church I served who was completely thrown off by the hymnal. Someone who had never been in a church before. And they couldn't figure out why we sang the first line and then went to the next staff and sang the first line again. You normally would read line, line, line. It was someone who knew nothing about music. And so they just thought you'd read down the page, which is how you read a page. We assume our kids know that they have to go here, 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 here. But they will learn that if you line it out for them with your finger or with their finger. Now that's one thing. Lining out the song with your finger. Don't just hand them the book, you line it. Because if you say, even if you let them find the number and they're down next to you, they're not going to be engaged. They're going to start throwing this book around. So you are with them, lining out the song, line by line by line. Now, if you're talented, I couldn't do this. My wife could. If you're talented, as you're lining, let's imagine you're sitting, you're lining out the song with one hand, and with your other hand, you're tapping out the rhythm. Come thou fount of every blessing. They're learning rhythm. They're feeling it, and you're doing this. I can't do two things at once. I can't walk and chew gum, so I'm not able to do that. But if you are, tap out the rhythm on their arm or on their thigh. And if you're really talented, now this is way beyond me. I'm amazed that people can do this. I'm amazed my wife can do this, but she can't. And that is, whisper the next line of the song while you're singing it. It goes something like this. Come thou fount of every blessing, to my heart sing thy praise, to my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing. Call for some. See, I can't do that. But Mary could do it where they could actually understand and not get spit on. I can, Dad, come on. So if you can, help them be engaged by giving them the line. Giving them the words. Say the words for them as you're going through the song. And you've noticed already that there are certain songs that repeat in the service. I use the same doxology, morning, and then a different one in the evening for about 4 or 5 months in a row. And the same song after the creed, about 4 or 5 months or so in a row. If nothing else, help your kids learn these songs. This is one where something they go, oh, I know this song. We sang this at home, around the table. Mom and Dad taught me this song. I'm sure if you're not a musician, you can find some recording somewhere of the songs that we have in the book. So use this time at home to train them to sing in church, those repeated songs. In fact, I had one family in my last congregation, when they knew about the time I was going to switch the song, and they would say, would you please send me a week ahead of time what song you're going to use so we can start with our little ones right away. They wanted to get a jump on what the next repeated song in the service was. So we repeat those songs for a purpose, to help our kids learn to sing. Same thing with the Apostles' Creed. You can spend time learning that. This is probably when your kids are a little bit older. Let's spend time in devotions, maybe one night, saying we're going to start learning the Apostles' Creed. And after devotions, Dad says, okay, time for the Apostles' Creed. I believe in God the Father. Kids, repeat that. I believe in God the Father. Dad says, I believe in God the Father. Kids, repeat that. I believe in God the Father. Dad says, I believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. Kids, repeat that. And you go back and forth. Don't try to do more than one line in a week. Okay? Don't try to learn the creed in one night. But give them something. So when we get to the creed, they go, I know this. I know this. We say this at home. And that's why we train our children to worship at home so they can worship in church. Some training goes on in the worship service, to be sure, but a lot of it happens at home to prepare them. 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments are great because I read them every Sunday, so it's regular. Kids know it, kids expect it. And as I'm reading those with your kids, you put up the fingers, okay? And God spoke all these words, saying, I'm the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Have no other gods before me. Put up number 1. You shall not make any images. Put up number 2. Don't misuse God's name. Put up number 3. And count these out with your kids as the commandments are being read every Sunday. Because pretty soon they'll do it. And they'll look forward to it. Oh, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5. Oh, number 5 is my favorite. Children, obey your parents. Okay, honor your father and mother. Because on number 5, instead of just using this, just give them a little slap. Just give them just a little reminder. If they don't obey their parents, there's going to be a little problem with that. Okay, so number 5 is the spanking command. Well, whatever discipline you choose to use. Okay, whatever discipline you want to use, but we use spanking with our kids. So, but just give them a little tap. Just a little tap. Number 5, because I don't want to say it's more important than the others, but at the age our children are, this is one of the most important commandments they need to know: to obey mom and dad. If my 5-year-old cannot parse the intricacies of the 7th commandment, I'm okay with that. But they need to know, obey mom and dad. They need to know number 5. So something beyond just listening. Something, again, manipulable. Something with your fingers, because listening is so hard. It is so hard to sit and listen, especially when you're a child. Which leads us to the next one. The next one, prayer in church. Prayer is even harder, I think, because how do we help our kids be engaged in prayer? I don't have a lot of good suggestions on this one, especially for the long prayer, other than the minister prays shorter prayers, but that's not going to happen. So, at the very least, I would suggest fold your hands with them. Again, some kids are going to freak out at that, so don't do it. But if they're okay with that, fold their hands in your hands. This, again, is a great control position. And you can just, pat their hand a little bit, rub their hand a little bit, help them to be engaged. During the prayer, they should not have snacks, and they should not have toys, because this is prayer time. Again, we're teaching the various parts of the service by how we respond to them. So folding their hands with your hands is one thing to do, but I know prayer is just tough. It is just plain tough. But you can help them with that at home. How do you have devotions around the table? Are they required to sit quietly while Dad reads the Bible? Maybe Mom reads a devotional to go along with it. We ask the kids a couple questions. They're getting used to sitting, listening, and then we have prayer. And they have to fold their hands, and they have to be quiet. It's just a little bit longer in church. So I know it's tough. I know prayer is hard. I'm very aware of that. But one thing you can do is fold your hands with them. Next one, offering. Offering. With the offering, make sure that they are putting something in. Even at the littlest ones, they put something in. And I would suggest they put some of their own money in. Now, I'm going to again get in dangerous territory here. As I talk about giving your children allowance. Allowance is a real dicey issue. Some people don't like allowance at all. Some people think it's the greatest thing ever. I was a cheapskate, okay, when it came to allowance. Very, very cheap with our kids. Our take on allowance was this. As a member of our family, there are certain obligations that you have. You have to, for example, make your bed. You have to once a week take out the garbage. You have to clean the dishes off the table. There are some obligations. Those are obligations simply because you're a part of our family. That's part of being in this family. You work as part of this family. Being in this family, there are privileges. Privileges that you get simply because you're part of this family. And one of those privileges is you're going to get an allowance. Every week, I'm going to give you a tiny, but I'm going to give you an allowance, not because you've worked, but because you're a part of this family. There are obligations and there are privileges. And we never try to tie those too closely together. I really don't like the idea of being the employer of my children. But you have privileges of being in this family, and you have obligations of being in this family. Now, if you choose to give your kids an allowance, in whatever form it is, help them to be able to give. Teach them when they are 3, 4, 5 years old the concept of tithing. Teach them about tithing when they're little. So if, for example, you're going to give your child $1 a week. I never give my kids that much. But if you're going to give your child $1 a week, don't hand them a dollar bill. Give them 10 dimes. They get 10 dimes. And you explain to them, we always have Saturday night, here, because you're a part of this family, you have the privilege of getting these 10 dimes. Here they are, 10 dimes. Now, you're also part of God's family. And you have the privilege tomorrow in church of taking one of your dimes and you get to put it in the offering plate. Do you think that kid will be engaged? Absolutely. This is one of mine. This is something Dad gave me, and now I get to give it to God. We teach the concept of tithing. Don't give them a dollar bill. They can't tear a tenth off. When they're older and they understand numbers, okay, fine, different. But when they're little, give them something that they can give. If you give them a dime a week, give them 10 pennies. Here's your 10 pennies. And now tomorrow, you get to take that one and you get to put that because that's your offering to God. You get to do that tomorrow. So, teach the concept of tithing when they're little. It's much harder to learn to tithe when they're old. But you do it from the time they're 3 years old and they never know anything different. So, in the offering, let them put their own money in. Okay, we come to the hardest part. Well, maybe not the hard, but one of the more difficult parts. The sermon. The sermon. Okay, what do we do about the sermon? First of all, as I've said before, I encourage you with your children in worship, use a stair-step approach. Don't expect that this Sunday they are going to be able to sit through an entire sermon if they never have before. Start them small. Start them, if your child can come into church, sit through the blessing, through the opening song, and that's as much as they're engaged, then take them out and let them have the rest of the day. Okay, but start small. Then next time, when they're ready, now it's through the second song. And then it's through the offering. And then it's through the sermon. And we use a stair-step approach to helping our kids be engaged in worship. I didn't know where else to put this, so I'm putting it here. Nursery. What about the nursery? Again, controversial topic for some. I'm giving my opinion. I think nursery can be very good for children in about the first 18-ish months. These are not hard and fast rules. These are just round numbers. For about the first 18 months or so. That's fine. I don't think any covenant child is going to be permanently damaged by spending 18 months in the nursery. I don't think that's going to be the case. If in month 19, we start engaging them right then. So nursery, and I say this, nursery should not be a good place. It should not be a fun place. Nursery should not be something the kids look forward to. And don't ever say this. Don't ever say, if you sit through this song, you get to go to nursery. It becomes a reward then. We don't reward them by taking them out of nursery. What we say is, if you can't sit through this next song, you have to go to nursery. You have to go to nursery. And make it not a good thing. No, I want to be in church. I want to give my time. I have my time in my church bag. Sorry, if you're not good, you have to go to nursery. So with all love for our nursery people, it shouldn't be a good place. It should be a second best choice. We were very, very fortunate with our daughter Nicole, when she was, as the firstborn, when she was about 20 months or so, she had a very bad experience in a nursery. I was preaching somewhere else. The nursery attendants were not very good. And it was not a good experience, and she never wanted to go to nursery again. That was the best thing that could have happened to us. Because we could really say, if you're not good, we're going to make you go to nursery. No, please don't send me to nursery. So don't make it a good thing. Don't make it a good thing. It should be a reward. It should be, if you're not good, you have to go. You have to go to nursery. I won't let you stay in the worship service. So nursery, use it at your discretion, but don't make it a reward, and don't make it, this is the best thing. You get to go out of church to go to nursery. How great is that? That's exactly opposite what we're trying to teach them. And as they're older, if you have to take them out for discipline, and that happens on occasion, if you have to take them out for discipline, you bring them back in. You take your child out and, well, I was going to say spank them. Do whatever you do to discipline them. You bring them back in the service again, because their goal is to get out of church. That's why they're being naughty. They want to get out of church. They don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to do something to get taken out. Now, if you take them out and don't come back in, they got their goal. Okay, it cost them, a red butt a little bit, but they're willing to put up with that because they got their goal. But when you take them out and you spank them and then you bring them back and sit them down again, man, it doesn't take very long for them to learn. This is not worth it. It is not worth the red butt to be brought right back in here again. So yeah, they have to be taken out sometimes. Guess who takes them out? Mom, who's had them all week? No. Dad, you take them out. Dad, you take them out. Dad, you administer discipline. And Dad, you bring them back in again. Don't let them have their goal. Bring them back in. If you have to take them out 5 times, you bring them back in 5 times. All right. So nursery, good for the beginning. Yeah, you have to take them out sometimes. For about the months, again, round numbers, 19 to 36, so 1.5 to 3 years, it's a transition. You are training during this time. But can you imagine if by the time your child was 3, they were sitting in church? Oh, it'd be like a foretaste of heaven. If you invested 18 solid months, and they would be a lot of work, but by the time your child was 3, 3.5, or maybe 4, they are sitting in church, they're singing the songs, they're counting the commandments, they're saying the creed, they're praying the prayer, they're listening to the sermon. Isn't that worth 18 months of terribly hard work to get them engaged? So, sermon. I had to digress there with nursery, but sermon. Again, have them find the Bible passage. If they've marked it ahead of time, have them find their bookmark. Don't just hand them the Bible. And then, once again, no surprise, as we're reading the Bible, line it out for them. They like that. My daughter, Kristen, well, let me back up. Whenever I go to church and I'm not preaching, I always take along my Greek and Hebrew Bible because I want to stay sharp on the languages. Well, before I was a minister in seminary, I would sit next to Kristen, and I would use her finger to follow along in my Greek New Testament. Now, Kristen doesn't read Greek, but she liked doing it. It was fun. She liked lining it, and Hebrew is even more fun because you're going backwards. Now, she doesn't know that, but anyway, but line it out with them. Let them be engaged. Use your finger, use their finger to line out the text. They think they're reading. Your 3-year-old, he thinks he's reading. Look at this. Look, Mom's moving my finger. I'm reading. The kid's not reading, but they think they are, and suddenly they're engaged again, rather than Mom and Dad reading the Bible and kid's over here playing with his brother. So have them look up the text, follow the text, and then I say this with all the love I can. For those 18, 24 months, don't expect to hear any sermons. You're not going to hear the sermon. You're going to be so engaged in helping your child with the manipulable, with the little candy or the cereal thing. You're going to be helping them with their notes. I'm going to say that in just a minute. But you're going to have to give up about 1.5 years of sermons. Again, there's a lot of things we give up for our kids. A lot of things we give up for our kids. Maybe this is one. You're going to hear a little bit, but you're not going to be engaged like you were when you were single or a young couple. But isn't it worth it to help our children become engaged? Help them take notes. Taking notes in church. They have their notebook. Taking notes is obviously going to be age appropriate. So for the first 3, 4 years, just have them draw a picture of what they hear. A picture of what they hear. And they can hear some very interesting things. I remember seeing some of the stuff my kids drew. Came home from church. There's the picture. It's an elephant. I said, Did I say elephant in the worship service today? I don't remember saying elephant. Oh yeah, Dad, you talked about the elephants. Okay, well, what is it I said about them? You said Noah took all the animals in the ark, and here's one of them, it's an elephant. Okay, that's how kids hear things. They don't hear what we hear, but to that child, I obviously talked about the elephant that day, because I said all the animals go in the ark. Here's one of the animals, it happens to be an elephant, that's what I talked about that day. So a picture of something. As they get older, maybe again 4, 5, 6, round numbers, 4, 5, 6 years old, have them listen for a specific word in the sermon. This coming Sunday is going to be a prime example as we're talking about Lord's Day 10 and the providence of God. I suspect I'm going to say providence 50 times, probably. I don't know for sure, but probably. A lot of providence can show up a lot. So have them listen for a specific word. Depending on their age, maybe they make a tally mark every time they hear that word. And they have their notebook, and they're just making a tally mark every time they hear the word providence. They're making. Now, you have to help them hear it. Don't give them the notebook and say, whenever he says providence, make a mark, and then ignore him. Well, today we're talking about the providence of God. He said providence, mark one down. And I go on and on, providence. He said again, providence. Help them hear. Or if you don't want to talk to them, just tap their leg. Talk about providence, just tap their leg. If you just give them the notebook and say, every time it says providence, make a mark, you're going to get 0 marks. They need to be engaged. They need to be helped to be engaged. Help them take notes, or squeeze their hand, whatever, something to listen for a particular word, marking tally marks. As they get older, maybe they have notes or a picture and a note to go along with it, and they can write. So here's the elephant, here's the word elephant, spelled E-L-E-F-A-N-T. That spelling doesn't count. But have them write notes along with it. So stair-step approach. As they get older, have them use the liturgy. On the back, there's a book, there's an outline, usually 3 points, sometimes just 2, and say, okay, I want you to write 1 sentence about each of these. You listen, and you're going to have to help them with the transitions. Because the transitions, aren't always clear. I think they're clear in my mind. I know I'm moving on. Maybe you're not moving on yet. So help them with he's finished with that point. He's on this point now. Okay? Help them to write 1 thing about that particular part of the outline. Obviously, as the kids get older, and this is a lifelong thing. I'm a firm believer in taking notes in church. I made the casual comments about that Tuesday nights ago about Mark, the world-famous note-taker. Mark's such a good note-taker. His notes are in the Bible. He was listening to sermons, and this is the Gospel of Mark, okay? The value of taking notes in church. As they get older, they're going to write more organized thoughts. Teenagers are going to start to be able to evaluate. They're going to maybe ask questions along the side. I wonder what he meant by that. So help them to be engaged at their age level, taking notes. Again, it keeps their hands busy. They got a pencil, or however they hold it, and they got a book. And they're making marks. So they don't really need this guy anymore. Because now we're engaging them with something connected to the worship service. They're listening and making tally marks. So taking notes during the sermon, that's one way to get through that 25 to 28 minute time. Well, maybe 32 minutes sometimes. Taking notes on the sermons. All right, you're done. You've just spent the last hour exhausting yourself, helping your children be engaged in worship. You're done in the church, but now we have follow-up. You've just expended yourself to help this child be engaged. When you get home, it's time to review. It's time to review what it is you've done. So, you've helped them to make tally marks, or to draw a picture, or to write a note. Church is done. You come home. This is what we did in our house. I sat in my lazy boy. And each child would come and sit in my lap. And they would have their notebook. And we would just go through it together. What did you hear in church today? And they'd point out their picture. What's that a picture of? Oh, it's an elephant, or it's a teacup, or whatever it is, it's Moses. But they're sitting on Dad's lap. And they're going through, or this is the tally mark. This is how many tally marks I got. Well, let's count these tally marks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something to follow up. You've worked so hard to get them engaged. Don't just let it go. And again, Dad, this really is your responsibility. It really is your responsibility to help in the training of your children. And it's been my experience, kids love it. They love to sit on Dad's lap. We used to have, in our Phoenix church, on certain Sundays, we'd have people over for lunch, and we'd just sit around the living room, kind of be served buffet style, and I would sit in my lazy boy. And when it became time for prayer, of course, all the kids got to be quiet, so we can fold our hands and pray. And Kristen, our daughter Kristen, our number 3, she would always come and crawl up in my lap. When she was a little girl, she'd always come and crawl up in my lap for prayer. I don't know how it started. It was just always the way we did it. And it went on and on and on. And I remember very, very plainly one of the last times when she was at home before college. She was an 18-year-old girl. Time for prayer. Kristen comes, crawls in my lap. They love being with Dad. They love having time with Dad. So develop that pattern. And now we're developing a pattern that helps them review what they learned in worship. So, and ask them questions. Why did you draw this? What did you hear him say? Why do you think he said that? Help them already start to learn to critique sermons. Now, when they're older, that critique gets more intense. Why do you think he focused on this particular thing today? Help your young people, help your teenagers learn to properly evaluate sermons. And the most fundamental question you ask them is, was the gospel preached today? Ask your teenagers, was the gospel preached today? Was Jesus Christ shown to be the only hope for sinners? Were we called to faith and repentance? Because pretty soon, they're no longer going to be in your home. They're going to go off to college, they're going to go off to work, they're going to get married and go someplace else, and they have to find a church. Have you prepared them to evaluate the church they're going to see? Have you prepared them to listen to the message and ask the most fundamental question, was the gospel here today? And if the answer is no, then you don't go back. This is how we want to be instructed. If the gospel is here, then we can ask other questions. Was it theologically sound? Was Christ seen through all the scriptures? We ask more questions, but help them, especially in those teenage years, learn how to evaluate sermons. So when they're out of the house, they can do it on their own. And you can have great confidence they are going to find a solid church to worship at, because by God's grace, we have taught them what to look for. So, review the notes with Dad. Prepare for the evening sermon. We have a wonderful blessing that twice every Lord's Day, God welcomes us into his presence. I hope this is not irreverent. Twice we get to sit on our Father's lap on Sunday. Twice. So we help our kids get ready for the nighttime. We read the evening text for our devotions. And that way when it's read in church, I know this. We read this at lunch. Helps them to prepare, helps them be engaged. We maybe sing the Psalms. Maybe we read the Psalm for the Psalm selection at night, or sing the songs. And I did actually bring something. If you're not a singer, and if you're unfamiliar with the Psalms in particular, there is a wonderful resource. It is called Be Thou Exalted, Lord. This is a set of 6 CDs that includes all the Psalm section of the Psalter hymnal. It's put out by, Dordt College a number of years ago, done by the choir, chorale, band, and orchestra. Different groups doing different psalms. But all the psalms are in this CD series. So if you're new to psalmody and want to learn the psalms from the Blue Psalter, this is a great resource. I have no idea how much it costs. I don't even know where to get it. I'm guessing if you go on Dort's website, there's got to be some, Dort always wants your money, so there's going to be some link to it somewhere. But this is a wonderful resource for you. Maybe these are your Sunday morning CDs. We're not going to put another thing. This is our Sunday morning CD. But it also helps you to sing the songs in church. So sing the songs. Again, we learn at home how to prepare for worship. We sing at home so they can sing in church. Yeah, there'll be some things they just have to learn in church, but we can help them. Help them be engaged. And then also prepare for the week ahead. How did what we hear tonight, or this morning, how did what we hear how is that going to make us ready to go back to school tomorrow? How is that going to help us to be more kind to our classmates? How's that going to help you know how to respond to your teacher, maybe when you disagree with him or her? And we help them to think about, how does this impact life? The worship is not just for that 60 minutes on Sunday morning and 60 minutes Sunday evening, but it prepares us for our walk with the Lord throughout the week. Sunday is that preparation to enter into the week. And they need help seeing that. They need help seeing those things. So help them learn how to prepare for the week to come. All right, that's a lot. I have given you a lot. I've given you all kinds of suggestions. You probably have many more examples you could give me, especially those of you who have had children and you know, sat with them in church and all those things. I only sat with my kids when they were younger. I didn't sit with them when they were older. Like I said, not everything will work with every child. I would encourage you, before you say, that won't work with my child, my question is, how do you know? They may surprise you. Expect more from them, not less from them. Give it a try, and give it a fair try. Just because the first Sunday they have a hard time lining out the song and they get distracted, don't give up on that. Don't give up on that. Give them the time to learn this is what we do when we go to church. Lining out the scripture text. This is what we do. Having them find the numbers. This is what we do. Give them the time to develop the routine. The last thing I want to give you in the last 2 minutes or so is a wonderful Latin phrase, probably my favorite Latin phrase. I don't know Latin, by the way, I just know a couple Latin phrases. The phrase is ora et labora. Ora et labora. It translates prayer and work. Prayer and work. When you have these little ones, pray for them now, that they might be able to be engaged in worship. But don't stop at prayer. Ora et and labora. And a lot of work. It's called a worship service, okay? There's work to be done. So, ora et labora. Pray that your kids be engaged and then help them to be engaged. Help them to understand both halves of Psalm 46, verse 10. Not just be still, but and know that I am God. Like I said, this has been hopefully some suggestions, some possibilities. It's like eating fish. Take the meat, throw out the bones, but I hope there's been a little bit of fish. And thank you for coming. Next week, we're going to start what I think will be 4 or 5 sessions on creation. We're going to start talking about creation next week. So that'll be next week. 2 weeks from now, no class, and then we'll pick up creation again after that, I think. But Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, we're not having class. I'm not sure if that's the next one. So check your calendars, watch the bulletin. We're not having class the night before Thanksgiving because, well, I got to work and you got to make food. So that's what's going to happen. All right, let's pray. We'll be done for the night. Father in heaven, we are so thankful for the children that you give to us. We are so thankful that you include them in your covenant promises and your covenant blessings. And we are thankful for the task you give us to do all we can to raise these children, that they might know you and love you, that they might be engaged with you in worship. Lord, these thoughts, these feeble thoughts that we've plucked out the last 2 weeks, will you use them in your might and your power and your strength? Will you use them to help us, to help our children, to be engaged in the worship of you, to be still, to know that you are God. Hear our prayer, O God. Watch over us as we go our separate way. We pray in Jesus' name.